Right, we need to talk about something because quote-unquote OG Bitcoiners who present themselves as investment experts now fail to understand that times have changed and you need to adapt and learn the tools and the armory that is now available to you. So these OG Bitcoin maxis that, quite frankly, don't understand how anything of TradFi works, have been saying something that has been so completely stupid. I've hesitated doing a video because it's like, this should be obvious. But I've got to the point now where one of the most respected Bitcoiners, commentators, fund runners, marketers, promoters mentioned my name in his podcast and said nobody should be even considering income funds, and what you should do is just sell some Bitcoin whenever you need some income, and that's going to work out better for you than using these new tools that have come out. Now, what this is stemming from PTSD when it comes to the VC-backed lending products that were out there in the last cycle. That's all this is. They have failed. They've stuck their heads into the sand and are refusing to look up, even though we've had the development of Larry Fink, even though we've had the development of Cantor Fitzgerald, even though we've had the development of MSTY, even though we've had the development of derivatives markets, ETFs, etc., etc. These people need to take a seat, because if they don't want, if they don't want to pull their heads out of the sand, we got it from here. Don't worry about it. Just take a seat, be a smooth brainer, be a gold bug Bitcoiner, and that's it. What I want to do here is dispel the myth, because that's what it is. And by the way, this is why you should subscribe to the channel, because this is the type of things that, these are gold bug Bitcoiners, right? That's it. At the end of the day, they're gold bug Bitcoiners. They don't understand anything when it comes to TradFi. They don't understand the benefits of these products. They don't understand why there's a $300 trillion market out there for fixed income, right? They seem to think that this just sort of is an illusionary product because they got hurt by the Bitcoin lending products that were out there funded by shitcoin VCs designed to steal people's Bitcoin. And I get that, right? I understand that. I have empathy for that. But at the same time, you can only have empathy to a certain point when the evidence is there. Like, all these guys are nerds, right? They're really good at spreadsheets. I'm not a math PhD, but I can put together a simple spreadsheet to demonstrate why this is a dumb idea to listen to these people. And it is an intelligent idea to consider using some of the tools that TradFi, Larry Fink, BlackRock, YieldMax, are now inspiring in the markets, right? So I want to do this quick video and just demonstrate this so that we can end the conversation and you can completely understand that the moment someone says, sell your Bitcoin. By the way, these are Bitcoin maxis that have been telling you to buy as much Bitcoin as possible, hodl it for as long as possible. And now they're telling you to sell your Bitcoin when you need an income because they're too stupid to actually take the time to understand how these products work. I hate to say this, but this is the reality of what's going on here. So it needs to be said. Now, I don't really do spreadsheet style videos. It's not really my thing. So we're gonna, hopefully this comes out okay. I apologize if it doesn't, but I'll put a picture of this spreadsheet on my X, on my Twitter account. And I'll put a link underneath the video to go see it. So you can actually go see it and scrutinize it if you wish. So basically, if I bring up this spreadsheet right here, it's a very, very simple spreadsheet. It starts on the 5th of April, which is basically when you would have, one day before you would have needed to own your MSTY income fund in order to be eligible for that very first dividend, right? The Bitcoin price close was 67,857. The IBIT price close was 38.41. I put it there just because I was thinking about doing an IBIT comparison, but it sort of works out the same with Bitcoin. The MSTR price close was 143.90, and the MSTY price close was 34.29. So this is how it breaks down. One Bitcoin, 67,857. That's the benchmark. The benchmark is we want to compare this to Bitcoin, right? IBIT shares, irrelevant for this spreadsheet, but MSTR shares, 472. So you would have been able to buy 472 MSTR shares. And if you understand that the hurdle rates are now, for me, it's Bitcoin. There's obviously people out there that are like, my hurdle rate is MSTR. That's okay too. But my hurdle rate is Bitcoin. I need to be able to protect as much of that Bitcoin as possible. So on that day, I would have bought 472 shares of MSTR and 1,979 shares of MSTY. That is the investment base. What we want to do is maximize the ownership of those numbers, right? So it's a bit of a confusing spreadsheet. You got to read it in reverse, right? So it starts down here on the 8th of April. On the 8th of April, the dividend per share announced by MSTY was $4.13. That's a dollar value based on the holdings of 1,979 of $8,170.50. The Bitcoin price on that day was $71,613. So if you had to, in the equivalence of taking that, by the way, that dividend was high because the first time they do it, it's a little bit longer than 4 weeks, a little bit longer than a month. So that's why that dividend was so high. So anyway, the Bitcoin price, 71,613. So you'd have had to sell, right? Because that's what we're doing here. We're being very fair. What we're doing is 1 Bitcoin in all of these investments, in Bitcoin, in MSTR and MSTY. And what do you have to sell down your position to equivalent that income? Right? Because that's what these guys are saying, right? It's what everyone's saying on Twitter and everywhere else. Just sell down your Bitcoin, sell down your MSTR, and again, this is the effect of that. So you'd have to sell 0.11 Bitcoin, which would have left you with 0.8859 Bitcoin. MSTR share price on that day was 151.30. You would have to sell 54 shares of MSTR, which would have given you a net holding reduced from 472 to 418. MSTY, still the same, 1979. Anyway, so that's the basis of this. And you keep going down that. So for example, let's come up here and look at a big one, right? So the 22nd of November over here, the dividend was $4.42. The dollar value, huge dividend month. $8,749. The Bitcoin price was 99,000, jumped up almost 30% in 1 month. You would have had to sell 0.0884 Bitcoin because the Bitcoin price went up. And this is their thesis. Their thesis is as Bitcoin goes up, it's going to out-accelerate any of these income funds, et cetera, et cetera. So you'd have to sell 0.0884 Bitcoin. By the way, by then, with the previous month, you'd have already been down to 0.2970 Bitcoin from 1. So you've now diluted it down 70% just by November. And this only started in April of 2024. The MSTR share price going through the roof, absolutely parabolic, et cetera, closed at 421.88. By the way, if you're trying to reference it, all of these prices are done on the close price on those days. So you'd have had to sell 21 MSTR shares. That was awesome, by the way, because the previous month you had to sell 35. You only had to sell 21 MSTR shares in order to generate that same income. But that's now left you at 190 shares only with all these other shares that you've had to sell throughout the months. By the way, MSTY, still the same, 1979. So where do we end up with this in this May, right? This is every single dividend on MSTY that's been paid out. And where do you end up with this May? Here's where you end up. 9th of May, the dividend payment was $2.37 per share. That was $4,696.96 based on the holding of 1,979 MSTY shares, which, by the way, have not gone down. You're just holding those, right? The Bitcoin price was 102,991. You had to sell 0.0456 Bitcoin. So your net Bitcoin held has gone from 1 Bitcoin in this period between April of 2024 to May of 2025, gone from 1 Bitcoin to 0.0405 Bitcoin. MSTR share price flying through the roof again, $416. You had to sell only 11 shares of MSTR, but now you only hold 121 shares of MSTR. By the way, you started with 472 shares of MSTR. So here's the summary of how this has worked out if you followed, the OG Bitcoin maxi, super smart, we're the best. Everyone else is stupid, and Larry Fink is the same as Alex Mashinsky and all of these other people, right? Anyway, it truly, by the way, it truly pisses me off, because these are people that I've looked up to. These are people that helped me in my Bitcoin journey. So now to see these same people turn around and say, oh, just sell your Bitcoin, it's completely and utterly regarded to me. Like, I don't understand why they're doing this. Because when you can easily create a spread, and I told people, I've told people this, just prove it to me. You're saying just sell the Bitcoin or sell the MSTR. Prove it to me. No one's managed to do it, so I wanted to wait until this conversation extended out a little bit more to just demonstrate, bring out all the morons. I want all the morons. I want all of them, right? Give me all the morons. So now, we've reached peak moron. It's Bitcoin conference week, which, by the way, I'm so sad I'm not going to be able to make, but it's going to be an amazing conference. David Bailey and his team are going to throw an amazing event. I'm very, very sure of that. But the summary of it is this. Your total Bitcoin has gone from 1 Bitcoin at the beginning to 0.0405 Bitcoin, which is down. The dollar status of that, right, is down 94%. Okay, the assets are actually down 96%, because you went from a start value of $67,857 to an end value of $4,171, down 94%. You earn 0 income. The total MSTR, you have 121 shares. So you've gone from, the good news is MSTR has grown a lot. So even though you started with 67,857 in MSTR, the end value is still $50,340. That's pretty respectable, right? It's only down 25.81% in dollar terms. And this is the real rub for me. In assets, you're down 71%. So if you believe that holding these assets is what's important, you're now down 71% listening to OG Bitcoiners. Right? These are the Michael Burrys of Bitcoin. That's what it is, right? Michael Burry got one thing right, and now everyone thinks he's a genius. He's been wrong every single other time since then, and now everyone thinks that these guys are basically the Michael Burrys. MSTY, on the other hand, right? You still own the 1,979 shares because you're just holding it. The start value, same thing, 67,857, 1 Bitcoin. The end value, it's down. $46,546. It's down 31.4% in dollar value. Even more down than MSTR. MSTR is only down 25.81% in dollar value. However, they paid you $73,000 in that same time period, right? And the most important thing for me is the assets remain the same. The actual underlying holding is 1,979 shares of MSTY. You didn't have to sell that. Now, this is what they talk about when they talk about NAV erosion. But what they don't say is that when MSTR, your dollar value is down 25.81%, is that NAV erosion, morons, or not? Why do you say that it's NAV erosion for MSTY that's only down 6% more in dollar terms, right? Why do you say that that's NAV erosion, but you don't say that when the share price of MSTR goes down, it's NAV erosion? And by the way, they've paid you that $73,000 of income that you can choose to do whatever you want with it. And you've got the same 1,979 shares, which means that as the MSTY share price goes up, you're going to have NAV accumulation, I guess. So this is a quick video here. I'll post the image of this spreadsheet. I'm happy for anyone to scrutinize it and tell me I'm wrong and tell me why this is dumb. Send this to every single person that hated on income funds, because the reality is this: Bitcoin is moving forward. Bitcoin is moving forward without these Michael Burrys, and Bitcoin is giving you this armory, this absolute armory of tools for the sole purpose of holding on to your assets as much as possible. Why is there a $300 trillion fixed income market? It's because wealthy people and people generally understand that holding on to the asset is what's important. It's why Bitcoin lending is a conversation. I want to have conversations about that, so subscribe to the channel as well. But Bitcoin lending is a conversation because we want to hold on to the underlying asset. And MSTY and income funds in general are tools to allow you to do this, because let's say you move 10%, right? Let's say you move 10%, like my friend with the tweet that I put out that set this whole thing off was a tweet that got almost 800,000 views. And let's say you take 10% out of your cold storage and you put it into an income fund. Well, now you've got an asset that's going to go up and accelerate to the upside as MSTR accelerates to the upside, and MSTR will accelerate to the upside as Bitcoin accelerates to the upside. If you don't believe that Bitcoin's going to accelerate to the upside, none of this should be even a conversation for you, right? So basically what we're proving here is that a few more months down the line and you're going to end up with basically zero Bitcoin, probably in the next month, right? I'd like to see this, how this pans out for this next June dividend, because in the next month, you probably end up with zero Bitcoin. You'd end up with like 110 shares of MSTR, which is continuously going down to zero. But with MSTY, you still hold that asset. It's going to go up a certain smaller percentage to MSTR. It may even match over a long term. Short term, it's never going to. Over a long term, it may even match the compound annual CAGR of QQQ. It hasn't in this example because we've had this volatility period that's happened. But you've got to look at this over a long term like an intelligent person. And unfortunately, some of these Bitcoiners are not demonstrating their peak intelligence level when saying, sell your Bitcoin for income or sell your MSTR for income. They're absolute idiots. And I would like them to tell me I'm wrong. No, don't tell me I'm wrong, because they've been doing that for a couple months now. Show me I'm wrong. Put the spreadsheet together and demonstrate it yourself. The equivalent income on MSTY and selling down your shares because you guys believe that getting rid of your assets is the single most important thing you can do for income. It's complete and utter horseshit, and I'm completely annoyed by it, and I wanted to wait until they all came out to put this video out there to demonstrate to you that you learn how to utilize these tools, because these tools are going to allow you to hold on to as much of your assets as possible, and they are not the shitcoin VC-backed tools of the last cycle. We're talking about the American derivatives markets, and it is completely ridiculous. Anyone who was in the room when I was giving a talk or on a panel in Dubai understood my face when I said comparing Larry Fink to Alex Mashinsky is kind of silly. But ultimately, there's always only 3 rules to Bitcoin. Step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, shut the fuck up. And step number 3, you get fabulously wealthy.